Hello everyone, welcome to Dark Fae Tarot. Welcome back to new subscribers and welcome to those who already know me. So you are joining me on the afternoon of a beautiful day in Brussels, and I just had to film this video because I have been working with two beautiful decks in the month of April, and I had to do a deep dive video. So the decks that I work with, as you can guess from the title, are the Llewellyn Tarot by Anne-Marie Ferguson and Botanical Inspirations by Lynn I'm not going to pronounce this right. Araujo? I can't pronounce this right. But these are the two decks that I worked with, and I'm going to go into both of them in a moment. So the Llewellyn Tarot is a much beloved tarot deck I know of Dawn Michelle over at Boho Tarot. My story with this deck is that basically in 2020, during the pandemic, I came back to tarot and I went and bought some decks because I never knew so many decks existed. And this deck, I know Dawn Michelle had spoken about on her channel. She absolutely loves it. She adored it. And I wanted to try it out. The other aspect of this deck, which really called me and was like, yeah, I definitely want to try this out, is of course it's Welsh, it's Welsh mythology. And I have a very strange upbringing and background. It's really, really mixed. But part of it is that I'm born in Lancashire, but I'm raised in Yorkshire and Humber, and I spent a lot of time in Cumbria and then also in North Wales. So it's kind of like this mix, that's what I'm going to say, of where I've lived in before the age of 10, then it changes again. But anyway, so I kind of like have this very... it's memory and also just dreamlike feeling of that past, how it is with nostalgia. This is like a Six of Cups moment for me. And this deck for me really is kind of like a symbol of the stories that I was reading as a child. This is all we had, you know, the English mythology, Welsh mythology, Scottish and Irish, like that's what we had in school. And I read a lot of it and I absolutely was always in love with it. I was always in that fantasy world. And so, yeah, this deck really just called me in that sense. Let me show you the inside of the box because I think it is stunning. Look at the inside of that. So yes, it's one of those large Llewellyn box decks and it comes with a large guidebook. Here it is. So Anne-Marie Ferguson, as I understand, she is the author and the artist of this deck. And I think I bought it at the time for 20 euros, but I think now it's around 30. I can't remember. Look at these gorgeous backs with the Welsh dragon. And I bought it in 2020, but I wasn't clicking with it. And then this August, I don't know what happened, 1st of April, I used it and it sang like a bird, basically. I was like, I'm so happy I kept and held onto this deck. As you can tell already by what you're seeing, I have kept the borders, and I think that the borders are gorgeous on this deck. I think anybody who is in love with this deck and uses it often, I would definitely have a second copy, trim off those borders and keep them, you know, keep basically alternates because this is such a beautiful deck. And it is RWS based, so it is very easy to read with, and I think it's really great newcomer deck as well. And I'm going to go into that a little bit with the guidebook. So it is Welsh mythology, and I think that this deck, its shine is its artwork and the beauty of the watercolors used and the color used. We're going to see a lot of blues and a lot of yellows, a lot of that ochre, burnt orange, and then these beautiful blues, cool blues that are coming through. And I just thought, and just the way that she's captured the sky, the clouds, and then the land. I've never seen anything like this. So I am completely and utterly, you know, I was just completely in a land of fantasy when I was using this deck, and it was just perfect. I think there's something about tarot which makes it golden in the sense that we come out of day-to-day lives, and in a way, I think for readings, I can sometimes like that. I like the fact that I'm not always in everyday reality. I'm in a mythical place because that allows sometimes for me to access the liminal space, allows me to access what I'm sensing that is forthcoming. And this deck definitely does that. It really reminded me a lot also, of course, of growing up and some of the landscapes that I'm used to seeing as a child. the Welsh countryside is very, very rugged. As those of you who know it know that it's the valleys are breathtaking, very dangerous, but breathtaking. And the sea, the sea that's coming up against it, the Irish Sea and then the Atlantic, extremely strong. And just the way that you have this reminiscence of these castles that are then submerged is just amazing. You can really see that she knew, or that's what I'm thinking, this artist and this creator really knew the region and the mythology and the lore. You know, she knew the spoken tales that were coming forth when she did this deck. And I really love this because there are moments where we see characters and they're like, it's almost like the landscape is in movement and yet the person has been caught. And it's almost like it reminds me of certain photographs that are taken that are very similar to that. So yeah, I was really, really taken by the art in this deck and how it's, you know, it's not something that I think, I don't know how else to put it, but the art makes the reading special for me, and that was really beautiful. So I used it for April and I pulled a card every day. If you look at my Insta, you'll be able to see that. I just really had this feeling, oh, look at that beautiful Hanged Man, that she just did such an amazing job. Now, one of the things that I want to go into now is the guidebook. So this guidebook, I think, is great if you're a newcomer because it has the basics about tarot, about the author. It talks about Snowdon, the highest mountain in Wales, and the mist of it. I mean, yeah, she's going into Dark Age, medieval times. I mean, this person really knows her Welsh countryside and landscape, and she talks about Wales, land of the red dragon. So yeah, I was really kind of like taken with how she's done the writing in this. And that's one thing you're going to get from this deck. And the other thing that she did very, very well, you're also going to get some spreads. Let me just show you that quickly. You've got the Celtic cross. If you want a deck and you're new to tarot, she's got another spread here. This is a great beginner's deck. That's what I'm going to come back to. But also what she did with each of the major arcana was she paired them with a story. So let me go on to this one. What do we have here? The Hanged Man. Let me show us the Hanged. I very rarely talk about the Hanged Man, so let's go there. So this is one of the older Llewellyn guidebooks. So we're not going to get a colored picture of the card, but a black and white one. I think that's fine. Where are we? Sorry, just give me a moment. I can show you. Yeah, this is Justice. So here we are, the Hangman. So here's what she's written just as the blurb right at the beginning. Description: the traditional tarot imagery depicts a man hanging by one foot or by the neck with his hands bound. Often there are two pillars and a crossbeam, giving an impression of a doorway into another realm or being once removed, marginalized. While the man is uncomfortable in his restriction, he does not wear an expression of pain. Rather, he has a look of calm resignation, sometimes even amusement. So here she's talking about the traditional Rider-Waite imagery, but then she goes into a character from Welsh mythology and how she's paired that with the Hangman. So this is the enchantment of Dyfed. The land of Dyfed was well known to be susceptible to the influence of the other world, having shifting or overlapping boundaries between the two realms. In the first branch of the I never pronounce Welsh names, Maminion, I think, ruler of Dyfed, unwittingly crosses the boundary, see the death card, and befriends Arwen, king of Anwen, and marries the otherworldly Rhiannon. In the third branch, the unseen powers reach into this realm and envelop the land of Dyfed. So this is following on from the story, and that's what she's done. She's created follow on from one myth to the next, one legend to the next, and she's done that across the major arcana, which I just think is so clever. And then she goes into the whole story of the enchantment of Dyfed and the character. She's also done that. The other one that struck me really was Branwen in the Star card. I can try and find it in a moment. But you get basically several pages of the story, not several, but yeah, about 4 pages of story, 3 or 4 pages. And then you get an upright meaning, restraint, suspension, stalemate, atonement, not being able to make one's influence felt. I love this because the person is upright in this. That's the strange thing. Being held at disadvantage, the dull pain born of constraint, being caught in a web, a freeze on life, detachment, isolation, impotence and chastisement can mean a punishment, as in the law of retaliation applying to the traitor. Thus, such suspensions can follow betraying oneself in doing or allowing something in one's life that was known to be wrong. And that was the interesting thing. She had a different twist on the cards, which I had, it was a new experience basically. And I really loved that. It wasn't always a very traditional meaning. She had her own twist on it. Let me show you a major arcana as well, because the major arcanas are a bit shorter. So I'm just trying to find one. Look at that. This is the story of Branwen and the Star card. Now, Branwen's story is quite sad, but I just had to show this card because I just think it's so beautiful. Oh my God, the feeling of hope and despair, and just really praying upon that star, just to carry her through. I think she's done it so well. I really love how the ocean looks in this deck. I mean, just gorgeous, stunning artwork. Okay, so we have here the Seven of Swords. So let me read the Seven of Swords, because I think it'd be good for you to get a minor arcana feel as well. With the minors, it's a little bit less. We only have basically 1/2 of a page. I'll show you in a moment. Let me find it. So yeah, you're just getting 1/2 of a page here. But for me personally, that's fine. I'm one of those people that I just find it easier sometimes not to have too much coming at me, because I do all my daily pulls first thing in the morning, and it's just like, I don't sometimes want to read 5 pages basically first thing in the morning. I actually journal a lot first thing in the morning. So here is Seven of Swords. Here is resignation, acceptance, limited success. Releasing of the old renews the spirit, rejecting outside expectations for individually fashioned lifestyle. End of an ordeal, negotiations, independent thinking, confidence. Release from the grip of material questing for higher pursuits. And in reverse, we have debasing of talents, warning, instructions, having to contend with uneducated critics, discouragement, narrow views, a lack of support or understanding. So this is very different from what I personally read the Seven of Swords as, but I think it's just done just as well. And yeah, I think it's, and I also, again, the path working, the ability to do path working in this deck is just amazing. It is definitely there. This is the Temperance card. This is one of my favorite Temperance cards of all time. Look at that. I mean, she's underwater. That's what it feels like to me. She's underwater, and yet she's pouring into the well. It's just, yeah, it's amazing. And so, yeah, I mean, let me just quickly check. What is the story of the Temperance card? Where is it? Yes. Keeper of the well. Legend says that beneath the waters of Cardigan Bay lies the submerged kingdom of the canted Gweld or bottom 100. Fishermen claim that on bright days one can still see its ghostly ruins casting shadows on the ocean floor. It's just apps. If you want to look at Welsh mythology, I mean, this is the deck for you. So I was just really blown away, not just by the artwork, but the fact that we had this story tale, this land that we were going into. And yeah, so that's the other thing. And finally, one thing I want to mention about this deck, which I thought was very clever, was when we have kind of like, let me just find a few cards that will hopefully show what I'm trying to talk about. So yeah, okay, I've got a few here. And then let me show, okay, so here we have this one. Okay, here we go. We've got a couple here that I can show you. So here I have the Magician. And again, we're going to have the tail of the Magician. And then here we have the Wheel of Fortune. I mean, look, that's Arianrod. I mean, like, look at that. That's, oh yeah. I mean, you can tell that she's creating something. She's keeper of the wheel kind of thing, But then here we have some courts. And I think this deck does very, very well in kind of like having this to me feels a little bit more like the magicians, the witches, the nobility sometimes that we have, the nobility. And then we have almost as if we have in the courts, we have kind of like what would be then at the time, what would be then the nobles, in the sense of those who would be holding, for example, the law under the Magna Carta, which wasn't until 1206. This is much before then. I think this is more, we would say, I'm guessing we're looking more at like 9th to 10th century. Well, Magna Carta is 1206 and 1212, from there to there. This one, for me, is just more, this is more nobility. And here we have the peasants, we have the gentry. And I love that because it really does speak back to how the land was done with its knights and, the people who are out for the quest. But, also the day-to-day people who had to somehow make their wishes come true. And they lived in the forest, and they lived in small places, making their own land, and that is, and this is conquest, of course, but that is what I found really like powerful. Like there was a lot of thought put into who is going to be who in this deck. And I think that is why, again, this is a fairy tale deck, basically. So going on from there and moving on from there, we already have 16 minutes. I wanted to talk about the botanical inspirations, and this is a deck I've had since, I don't know, 2020 as well, or something like that. I don't know. These were both single, have been nearly 3 years. Again, I wasn't sure if this deck was for me. I bought it, but then I was like, And then I put it with the Llewellyn, and magic happened. Now look at these beautiful botanical paintings. The reason why originally I bought this deck was because of the fact that the artist is a Flemish painter, Pierre-Joseph Redoute, and he was trained in Paris. And this is from, his time is born 1759 till 1840. So we are looking at that period of time. And I bought this because I was really attracted to the fact that this is a Flemish painter, of course. And then I put it with the Llewellyn, and it was just magic. The pull of the colors between these two, and if you go into my Insta, you're going to see that the pull of the colors between these two is just absolutely, you can see it there as well, the purples, the purples, it is just absolutely sublime. And I think that was why when I bought this, I was just completely, when I put them together, I was just completely blown away by how beautiful. And the messages are just, this says beauty and happiness. And here we have the Six of Cups. I mean, it was just absolutely gorgeous to put them together. I also believe if you had another botanicals deck similar to this one with these kind of designs, I have to go and pick up a guidebook, hold on a second. It would also go equally as well. But I had this one, and April was a month where basically I was trying to be careful to not just, buy more, basically. So here we have playfulness with the hyacinth. Oh, beautiful. And let's see what we have here coming up. Wow, I've got the Knight of Swords. They just worked for me so well together. So if you go to my Insta, you'll have a look at that. And so they were complementing each other in terms of the art style and the messages as well. But the gem of the botanical inspirations, which really was beautiful, was the guidebook. Now, Lynn Arrojo, there is the guidebook because I dropped it. She is, as I understand, a US Games editor and writer. This is a US Games deck, of course. And when I started to work with this deck, I just was really bowled over by the Camellia, Destiny, by the amount of research done behind each flower. So let's take the Camellia because I think that's a really good example. I really, really love the guidebook, actually. Here it is. So you have then the name in Latin, and then it says symbolism, destiny. You're going to get a quote there. The quote here is, "It is not in the stars to hold our destiny, but in ourselves." William Shakespeare. And then this is what it says. It says, "Throughout Asia, the camellia is revered as a sacred flower. It is the national flower of China, where it symbolizes daughters and sons. For the Japanese, it is an emblem of the divine. In Korea, it is used in wedding ceremonies to represent longevity. Camellias were imported from Asia to Victorian England for winter balls, and they had a special meaning for lovers. The gift of the white camellias sent the message that the sender and the recipient were destined to be together." Isn't that beautiful? inspirational message. When you look all around you, see signs that your fate is unfolding as it should. When you direct your gaze within, seeing what is in your own heart, you discover your own true destiny. There was something about the way that these decks work together, which for me were just, the word I want to say is, there was a feeling of just absolute, there was a nobility, it's a time and an era where virtues, or what was then considered virtues were really important in society, and the harking back to the land and that kind of thing, in Europe anyway. And I really believe that the decks both these decks spoke so well to the delicate and finer side of life. So here we have apple blossom, choices, knowledge, and illumination. And here we have Four of Cups. I mean, just when you put them together, you can just see how beautiful that is. And so I was really pleasantly surprised with how the messages were playing with the cards. Here I have the Empress. Look at that Empress, absolutely beautiful. And here I have strength of character and moral integrity. I mean, sorry about the noise, but you can just see here how I'm just even playing with these. The High Priestess, look at that green. And here we have Phlox, and it is unanimity and harmony. And so, yeah, the way that the colors have played together on this is just 10 of Wands. And here it is. Get this out. It says here, determination and creative achievement. I mean, look at that. Could you have just absolutely gorgeous. So you're just getting here an idea of how beautifully they go together, and I wanted to show that. So, the words that come to mind are myth, legend, lore, but also delicateness, nobility, virtue, all of those things. And so, there's an antique style to both decks, which I really appreciated. There's a fragility. And yeah, I think that these decks just were like perfect for me. So I'm going to end there and just say that, that I do have a couple of other videos that I know I need to do. I think it's going to be more this style again, but that's what works for me to just do, to be able to rapidly just be able to do a video. Hopefully the lighting is okay and you've been able to see everything, and you've enjoyed this. I would definitely say it's worth the investment for these decks if you're interested. Of course, if these are your styles. And I'm kind of like, when I love decks, I have to already start thinking, how am I going to bring it back? And this year, there's going to be some months where I'm not going to be buying new decks. I'm going to be bringing back the ones that I've already worked with and doing another round with them, because honestly speaking, because I'm reviewing every month a new deck kind of thing, mass market deck, sometimes I'm kind of like, but I just want to use something that I used last year or the year before because I liked it so much. I want to revisit it. So you might be a bit kind of like surprised, like I'm revisiting, but it's because also I just don't get to use those decks, and I want to reuse some of the things that I have. So thank you for joining me today. I will be doing another video soon. And I will see you all soon later. Take care now. Bye.